Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a really fascinating, unseen supernatural ecosystem described in Islamic theology. We're looking at the actual source materials to figure out the exact magic working mechanism by Jinn. It's essentially this hidden supply chain of stolen knowledge and spiritual warfare, and it is absolutely wild to unpack. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the world of Jinn, move into the exact mechanism of magic, talk about sorcerers and fortune tellers, look at spiritual afflictions, and finally cover Ruqya, the divine shield. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The world of Jinn, the unseen realm. Before we can understand the magic itself, we really need to know who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. According to Islamic cosmology, Jinn are unseen beings created entirely from smokeless fire. They actually share this world with us, but they exist just outside our normal physical perception. They've got their own whole societies, and crucially for our topic today, they act as the hidden engine behind what these texts describe as magic. Section 2. The mechanism of magic, eavesdropping on heaven. So how exactly does this hidden knowledge get down to earth? The theology outlines what's basically a highly organized supply chain of hidden information. It starts way up high. When divine decrees are spoken by angels in the clouds, the Jinn literally stack themselves on top of each other to eavesdrop. If a Jinn manages to snatch just a single word of truth before getting struck away, they pass it down. But it's kind of like a cosmic game of telephone. By the time that one grain of truth reaches the earth, the Jinn have tacked on 100 lies to it, so the final message is completely distorted before a human ever hears it. This spiritual espionage is explicitly documented in the sources. One translated hadith says, "He hears a word and passes it on to the one who is beneath him, until it reaches the lips of the sorcerer or the soothsayer." It's described as a literal, physical relay race of stolen data. And here's where it gets really fascinating. The whole process is incredibly bureaucratic. This malicious network doesn't just do things randomly. They actually maintain centralized indexes to log and track these spiritual attacks. The texts even note that these unseen databases usually sort human targets by their mother's name. It is literally a vast administrative network of affliction. Section 3. Sorcerers and fortune tellers, earthly actors. Let's look at how this unseen network shows up in the real world. The human side of this ecosystem includes sorcerers, fortune tellers, and soothsayers. Now, they might use all sorts of earthly tools to try and predict the future, right? Reading sand, tea leaves, using the numerical values of names, tossing things into iron pots, or reading tarot cards. But the theology is super clear here. Regardless of the aesthetic, the underlying mechanism is exactly the same. They are all tapping into that forbidden, corrupted stream of Jinn intelligence. To emphasize just how seriously the theology takes this, there is a massive spiritual penalty for the consumer. The doctrine states that merely visiting a fortune teller, even if you're just doing it for fun or reading a horoscope as a joke, literally blocks your prayers from being accepted for exactly 40 days. And actually believing what they say? That's considered an even graver offense that fundamentally contradicts the faith itself. Section 4. Spiritual afflictions. Consequences of the unseen. What actually happens when this system is weaponized to cause harm? The result is a really wide range of documented afflictions. We're talking about direct black magic, known as sihr, and the evil eye, or hasad, which is basically a harmful spiritual effect triggered by intense jealousy. It can also manifest as severe demonic whispering, called waswasa, which causes these sudden spikes of anxiety or unexplainable psychological doubt. And interestingly, one of the most common goals of these attacks is to unnaturally separate spouses, along with causing sudden physical and mental blockages. Theology acknowledges that literally no one is completely immune. There's this very famous historical account where a sorcerer actually cast magic on the Prophet Muhammad himself, tying his hair in knots and hiding them down in a well. When the Prophet fell physically ill from this, there was divine intervention. The chapters of the Quran known as Surah Falaq and Surah Nas were revealed, and as those verses were recited, the hidden knots untied, curing him completely. This specific event acts as the ultimate theological precedent for how to seek a cure. Section 5. Ruqya, the divine shield. Which brings us right to the definitive solution provided in the texts. Enter Ruqya. This is the permissible, religiously sanctioned method of spiritual healing. It involves directly reciting specific verses of the Quran, using supplications taught by the Prophet, and having absolute, unwavering reliance on God for the cure. Practitioners see this not just as a way to heal, but as a mandatory substitute. You don't fight magic with magic, you fight it with divine reliance. The sources draw a really strict, non-negotiable boundary here. Permissible healing, Ruqya Sharia, is totally transparent. You use known texts, clear prayers, and pure reliance on God. On the flip side, forbidden traditional practices, sometimes called kabiraji, rely on things like amulets, muttered unknown spells, and idolatry. The texts warn that those forbidden methods might temporarily mask an issue, but ultimately, they just feed you right back into the jinn's malicious network.
What's truly captivating about Ruqya is that it operates like high-stakes spiritual warfare. Practitioners use fervent, intense Arabic supplications to actively break spells that sorcerers might have hidden in the depths of the ocean, buried inside graves, or tied in unseen knots. It's not passive at all. It's a direct, offensive strike meant to completely dismantle the infrastructure of the magicians and their jinn counterparts.
All of this leaves us with a pretty profound final thought to chew on. When a theology maps out such a vivid, highly organized realm of supernatural espionage, where stolen truths are mixed with lies to target people's lives, how does understanding this intricate ecosystem shape a believer's daily actions? It certainly brings a whole new weight to the daily spiritual defenses and prayers outlined in their faith. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I hope it brought a new level of clarity to a truly fascinating topic.